Well, here we go. Hey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Welcome back to Rosie G's Garage. Hello again. Welcome to Roby D's Garage. Well, winter's here, or it's coming. So, time to do a little work to this guy. Needs a lot of stuff to make it right. It doesn't seem to have a lot of power for the motor that's in it. With this, mildly warmed over, I guess you could say, 340. It should do a lot more than what it does. It'll spin the wheels a little bit, but it just doesn't have anything up top. I haven't really put it through its paces real hard. I just broke it in this spring and then kind of drove it around on the weekends. Real short trips, nothing more than a mile or two at a time. Never went too far. Don't trust myself as far as the mechanicability of this vehicle right now. I mean, everything seems to be working, but I just, I've taken it out in traffic and it's okay. It's just, it needs some things. One of the things I need to do is to work on the brakes a little better. It's got drums all the way around. When I bought the car, it had sat for 20, 30 years in a garage. It's got drums all the way around, and they were undoubtedly locked up. The cylinders were bad, and I kind of just loosened it, got everything broke loose, and then put it back together. I think I put some new brake pads on it. I've since put a new rear end in it, but that's a whole different story. The rear drums on it are fine. It's just the fronts. I noticed the left side will lock tight while the right side stays loose. As you've seen in the little burnout I did right outside my garage, the whole ass end kind of wants to swing around, which indicates that right front wheel isn't even locking tight. So I gotta get in there. I gotta work on all that stuff. When I built this motor, it was the first time I had built a motor, and although I researched as much as I could, trying to get everything as good as I could. I'm sure I've missed a couple of things. During the break-in, I had a little issue. I bought a tack and I hooked it up, and I don't know, it had a setting on it that I wasn't aware of that set the tack for 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, or 8-cylinder. And playing by ear, when I started it up, it wasn't really running at the, I wanted to set it at 2,000 RPMs. Well, my tack was reading way off. And so I played it by ear. Of course, I was nervous, and I probably ran it around 1,400 RPMs instead of around the 2,000 RPM range like you're supposed to. It's got a flat tappet cam in it. It didn't really seem to hurt anything at first, but the more I drive it, the more I've noticed that there's a lifter tick. I went and I got one of these fancy little stethoscopes here, right here, and when I use this, I noticed that, let's see, 1, 3, it was the furthest cylinder towards the firewall on the passenger side, there is a lifter tick. So I'm gonna dig into that and see if the lifter's not wiped out. It runs its It's not backfiring. I've checked the exhaust tube. It's got headers on it, and it's getting hot, so which is telling me that the valves are still opening and closing. I don't know if I wiped a lifter. You know, that's the big thing. Everybody's wiping out lifters, or if it's just a bad lifter, or if something just isn't aligning correctly. When I built the motor, when I broke it in, I used the original springs. It's just got 587 heads on it, and it had the stock springs in there. And in my haste, after I broke the engine in to, you know, jam the engine in the car and get going, and you know, you want to get these engines in these cars and get them driving down the road, you know, be too anxious. I didn't replace the springs like I should have. I should have put the springs that were supposed to come with the cam in the engine. So I have to replace the springs anyways, and I noticed, you know, I use the original rockers, and just the geometry of them, they're all over the place. They don't kind of sit right in the middle and stuff. So I'm kind of hoping that may be the issue, but I have to dig into it and see if, you know, that's the case, and that I didn't wipe a lifter. You know, we'll see. I'm, you know, crossing my fingers, praying that, you know, I don't have to pull the engine apart if I got a bad lifter. I haven't even changed the braking oil. Like I said, I've only driven this car so much. I haven't even put 50 miles on it since I rebuilt the engine. So I'm gonna get all that stuff taken care of this winter. I have a little bit of a transmission shifting issue right now where it shifts and everything, but the 1-2 is funny, and the kickdown's a little funny. I notice if I shift manually from first to second, it drags. You can feel it pull the engine down. I've gone on a few forums, and some people have said that that's one of my bands being out of adjustment, so I'm going to have to dig into that and see what happens there. See if so. There's going to be a lot of stuff to do this winter, and I'm going to try to document it all and put a little bit up here for content and see if anybody wants to follow along and see how it goes. So, all right, we'll get into it in just a minute. Okay, so we've got the valve cover off, and as you can see, all my rockers are tight except for this one. But even though I'm where I'm at, it feels good. I don't feel any noise. But on this one here, can you see that? And this is where I'm hearing the lifter noise. So something is missing. Now when I rotate the engine, everything rotates and moves as it should. Watch. So that all moves, so I know the lifter's not completely smoked, if that's what it is, but I still have a little bit of movement, which is causing that ticking noise. So I'm going to pull off the shaft assembly. I'm going to pull that push rod out, maybe two of them, and I'm going to compare the heights to see if they're the same length. Maybe that one's bent. All right, we'll see. I'll get back to you on that. So I noticed that my exhaust side push rod is a little bit low, a little bit shorter than my intake one. So what I've done is I've marked them. You see the yellow line on the rod, or the push rods? And I'm gonna run the motor and rotate, watch for rotation, see if they rotate. This is how you can do it. You have to take the valve cover off. Obviously you have to have everything back together other than the valve cover. And you put a paint mark line on the push rods. You fire the engine up and you watch these should rotate. If they're rotating good, that means the lifter's working properly. I'm going to test all my other push rods to see what kind of lengths they all are, if there's a big variation or not. It was very small, like 10 thousandths, so we'll see. Anyways, yeah. Number 8, not a bad exhaust lifter. So off comes that, which will be my next order of business. I got to take the intake off, so you have to get the fuel lines, the radiator hoses off. I'm gonna have to drain a little bit out of the radiator so I don't spill fluid everywhere. Throttle linkage, kick down linkage, hook up for the coil because the coil is attached to it. I'm gonna have to pull it off. I had to pull that lifter out, take a look at it. I haven't put a lot of miles on this car, very little, but as most people know, it doesn't take much to wipe the cam out once the lifter is gone too, so it might be a whole project of pulling everything apart, getting the radiator out, the grill off, all that, to yank the cam out that way. So, crap. This ain't no fun. When I broke it in, I kind of was worried about it, especially knowing that everybody's having problems with these flat tappet cams. So, just one of those things you got to do. Hopefully I don't have to tear the whole engine apart. I got to get it up in the air a little bit, with the jack, get some jack stands under it, drain the oil, look at the oil. I don't see any metallic flakes anywhere. I'm hoping that it's right at the cusp. Do you replace all the lifters? Do I throw a lifter in there? See if I can get it rotating properly? I don't know. I'd hate to tear it apart, put it all back together, and find out that it's just doing the same thing. We'll do a little research on it. But, yeah, of course. It shouldn't be that bad getting the intake off. It's not that big of a job. I probably got to pull that valve cover off of the other side there, on the driver's side, because these aluminum valve covers kind of overlap on top of that intake a little bit. But we'll see. I'll probably start on this in the next day or two. Today's Monday over here at my house, and I have to go to work in the afternoon, so just came out here for a little more of an assessment, and we'll see. Tune in, we'll show you what the lifter looks like once I get it out. I was hoping that I could take a magnet and fish it down into this hole down here and maybe get down to the lifter and snag it up. But these holes here, these openings where the fuel drain outs are, they're just not big enough to get my magnet in, and if my magnet wouldn't go in, the lifter wouldn't come out of those holes anyways. So I never, they're pretty jagged. You can see the edges. This is one of the things I never did when I put this engine together, was prep those by, cleaning them out with a carbide bit, which is something I should have done, first build. So, all right, we'll get back to you guys, and we'll have the lifter out. We'll have the intake off and stuff, and see how it looks. Try to see if we can get down there and look at that cam lobe real close and see if there's anything I can do about it, if the cam lobe looks good or not, or if I got to get a new cam and I'll have to buy a new set of lifters and try to break it all back in. I'm trying to avoid pulling the engine, so we'll see. All right, we'll see ya. So, all right, that's it. Hopefully we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.